Amount of government if possible. Wow.
Yeah,
They received it.
yeah, because of the.
All right, we're on. I think we'll start with the pledge, even though it's a work session. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, I think the largest thing that I want to talk about today is we received from two of our elected officials information about the documents that are stored in 81 Jefferson Street. And I gotta tell you, I was really happy when I received these. They put a lot of work into it. It's very thoughtful. I feel like this is good government. They're giving us the information we need to make our decisions. There were a number of things that I didn't know, and I just want to go through them a little bit so that everybody knows what we're up against. But I was really pleased with the effort that they put in and some of the information that they made us aware of. So before I hop into those, though, Stace, I was wondering if you would want to give us a little bit of an update of the tour you went on.
It was actually very good. We got to meet with the.
So you went to Wood County?
We went to Wood County to check out their archival center or record center. What they did is it was their old jail. They basically gutted it, poured new floors and walls.
What era jail is it? Is it like the 1800s jail like we had here in
Yeah.
Square?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's right in town, attached to the rest
you go?
of their buildings. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it has 4 floors, well, basement and then 3 floors. The top floor they have their law library in. They showed us some of their evidence rooms downstairs for the judges. Even the clerk of courts has their evidence room. The clerk of court was talking about they do right now. They do microfilming and they send their microfilm to Iron Mountain,
Yeah.
Iron Mountain,
Mhm.
Pennsylvania, and they also scan their documents. The clerk, once the documents are scanned and microfilmed, she gets rid of the paper. So I thought that was interesting because each clerk seems to read it differently. So she said she did. She got rid of those documents. They have a huge area. They would hold, what did you say, 10,800
Yeah.
banker boxes.
Banker boxes of
So there was
documents.
the first floor was
I
pretty
didn't realize
much.
you went. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
So Julie didn't end up being able to make it, but Jean and Mary Ward and
And they do have a very large, what was his name? Shredder? They named their shredder. It was, it's a big piece of
He was
equipment.
a hungry guy, huh?
Yeah, and, they had a name for him. And they
oh,
test
crap.
him various times. It started with an M, didn't it?
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah, Mongo or something. And
Maybe
they
Mars.
mentioned several years ago having gotten that, was it 12,000?
I was thinking 15.
Yeah, something like that,
It's-
but I don't know, it's not a new piece of equipment, and she said it's not the cross shredding, it's the strip, the one way instead of the crisscross, but it obviously does the job, and they use that as needed.
Were they willing to
and
do our
departments
shredding
can
for
use it.
free?
No, I don't. But this piece of equipment took up, the size of this corner up here,
Okay.
That's big.
from, your chair to that wall and over to Nick, it's just, it's a big piece of equipment, so.
And all their documents are barcoded, so they know exactly which shelf it's on, where it's at. They can look it up in the system. They do not process any public records requests.
No, the
The
departments
entities
have to
do,
do that.
the elected
Yeah.
officials process it, so they're just a record center that manages it, puts it away. They go through the records retention schedule, and then once a box hits that schedule, they'll send the request to the elected officials, say, hey, your schedule's ready, this box can be destroyed, are you good with that? So it was
Yeah.
pretty interesting. I know Jean and Mary and Beth and Teresa stayed later than we did.
Oh, wow.
They were asking a lot more questions. checking out their document management system. They use OnBase,
Yep.
program OnBase, which I heard actually a couple of my counties were replying that seem to use OnBase as well. So their commissioner's office started the funding on this, on their record center, on their.
Did you get-
And she was full-time, right?
Yes.
She's is the manager of the record center, and then she serves on the record retention committee in like the role Nicole does for us. And then there was
Two part-time.
two part-time people, and then they had some other folks that were more like intern student help kind of a thing as well, that sometimes are just going through, and if it's a document that they gotta get page numbers on,
Yeah.
you know, or whatever it might be that they were doing, but, and she, obviously it's climate controlled, they have the space, they watch the record retention things, which controls the space, and although it's not, she said it's not to the point that you can't go into one section and find everything that belongs to the clerk of courts, or everything that belongs to the sheriff, or everything that belongs to whomever, she goes, because it's, you know, there's always a turnover of some kind,
Right.
but it's not always in the same, you know, because of the retention thing. Okay,
Oh,
this
okay.
this has hit the requirement for keeping for 10 years, 8 years, whatever it is. And then it moves out, but they know where their empty space is, and they know where everything's at by that barcode system.
Barcode, yeah.
So to kind of like a library category system, except for it's, again, this whole system here, and they're the rolling shelves, so they can put them together so you
Yeah.
can get in between these. But they know where the empty space is, and they know where every box is at.
Did they get into any costs, either to build it or to operate it?
Did not.
Yeah, we didn't get into that. I don't know if Jean and the other ladies asked after we
Yeah.
had to leave.
Yeah. Do you know the county administrator over there?
In Wood County?
Andrew,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you know him.
I do.
Maybe if we could get some kind of isolated numbers on that,
Yeah.
that would really help us
Yeah.
as we take this journey.
They started that in, what'd you say, 1998?
Yeah, yeah.
So they're a few years ahead of us.
I don't mind starting 20 years after that, as long as we start.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I can, because I put a broadcast out to all my county administrators to see who has archival centers, who has, you know, employees, who, if they do the contract service to take care of their documents, different things. And I had Nikki put a spreadsheet together showing me that list to see if the committee wanted to go look at any more. So I think Jean knew the clerk real well, and
Yeah.
that's how we got Wood County.
Awesome. That's
So-
really good news.
Yeah.
Will be news today. So I just want to go over a little bit of a few things on these reports that we got. First, from Jean Eckleberry, Clerk of Courts. Most important thing was she appreciates our willingness to take on this project, which I thought was really good. Strong spirit of cooperation. So here's a couple things that I didn't know, and I think are worth internalizing. In her conversation with the Ohio History Connection, they recommend microfilming as preferred medium and long-term preservation of paper records versus digital.
Yep. Somebody through the process has said that the Ohio History Connection always does.
Right. It's preferred, but it's not.
Not required, but preferred. But, you know, it's something that I didn't know. and
They obviously
that's
must have
interesting.
established a policy for various reasons.
They say
at some point.
State Archives recommends maintaining eye-readable backup, either paper or microfilm.
I don't know how microfilm is readable. Really?
Yeah.
It's I mean,
I
looks
mean,
like-
without the equipment
Yeah.
and then, I mean, it's not just one thing, it's,
Yeah, and I was always wondering how that was readable,
Right.
but
Yeah, you have to magnify it
Yeah.
or project it. Yeah. And it's, I guess she has been spending her own money on scanning equipment, $26,000 in 2006. They have records that are microfilmed but not scanned. And so they don't access the microfilm, they actually access the paper copy right now. So they don't have that indexed in a way or accessible. They don't have a reader that they can use, access their microfilm. So the microfilm is a backup, but not really a current tool that they're using. But the good news is they have all their documents from 2003 to the present that are scanned, and they have immediate access to those. But there again, those documents are not microfilmed. So the paper copy is their view, the long-term record preservation. And this is a number that we've been looking for. She has approximately 1,900 square feet in 81 Jefferson Street. So that at least is a starting figure of what she's currently using, which I think would be helpful.
But that's just Jean, right?
This is just Jean. I'm just talking Jean right now, yeah. And you know, that's kind of been our challenge is there's a little bit of everybody down there, so it's finding exactly what everybody needs. And she reminds us that the old records from the 1800s are very fragile and would take extra time to maintain and scan. So her conclusion and her recommendations are that we maintain permanent records, both scanning them and microfilming them as permanent retention. And that it's going to be a long timeline, and she's asking to extend that timeline because of the sheer volume of records dating back to 1800. And she concludes with a request for a staffed archival space that would give us a person that would be able to scan and microfilm records pursuant to the applicable rules and guidelines. So I appreciate her hard work on that.
Yeah, the thoroughness of the reports was good, and I mean, in defining the law, which I've heard them say before over the years.
Right.
But then, you know, so I'm, like I said, I hope they don't feel like we put them through an exercise, you know, just for the purpose of doing, because we didn't, but I'm hoping they found it as helpful as we are finding it within on paper.
Right, and probate juvenile designer Jay Meyer doesn't conclude, but starts with a recommendation to include a staffed archival space to execute records retention and instruction plan. And this was news to me. I didn't know this history, that in 2003 we discontinued microfilming, that the commissioners we had a microfilm department at some point and we discontinued it. I mean, I don't know the history of that or why that decision was made.
Yeah, that's before me, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, and His Honor is spending money to fund scanners and software, and he's and servers, and he's investing his money to shred documents that are no longer needed. And it's here to rely on the microfilm image as the accurate image. The deterioration needs to be determined before disposal. So there's this cross-check process that needs to continue to happen. And that's, I think, very interesting. And then he, you know, again concludes with recommended staffed archival space would be appropriate. The great news here is through their process, you know, to your point, Ollie, is they've identified routine documents that are administrative in nature, not historical, that can be shredded, and they're moving forward with a large volume
Yeah.
of, just to give you an example, duplicate receipt, ledgers, bills, vouchers, check stubs, just a lot of deposit slips, accounts
Because a lot of
receivable.
that stuff gets taken care of under the auditors or the treasurers or somebody else's, and then it follows their record retention stuff, so yeah, redundant for them to do it.
So, that's more great news, which is that they've identified documents and we can reduce the amount, the footprint that's in that building. And so, work well done on their part as well.
If I remember from reading, I didn't print it, but they indicated how much space they were using over there at 81 Jefferson too, didn't they? I don't know by square foot, but did they say a room or something?
They said 2 floors.
Okay, I thought they had, yeah,
So,
yeah,
I think that's.
yeah.
So, first thing to do is to quantify the problem, and now we're pretty close
Yeah.
to have quantified the problem. And
I guess I have to
towards
wonder,
solutions.
I have to wonder if, in, like I said, it's a matter of more investigation and things to check out, cost, et cetera. If we, I'm not sure that the goal is a records retention center. I mean, I think that's a wish list. It'd be ideal, but I don't know that it's the goal yet because we just don't know enough information to set that out there as our goal. But once we do, or if we did that, I'm wondering, other departments, including ourselves, are probably going to say, okay, we've got stuff we want there. We're trying to take care
become
of
the
what's.
closet?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've got the stuff at 81 Jefferson that, these departments, because of the volume, they have proximity, et cetera, however it ended up there, only place to go with it. But I'm sure there's gonna be other departments that are gonna have some things that, wonder how we knew. She read off a lot of departments when we were sitting in Wood County about, who's got stuff where. So there's, it's beyond what we're currently housing, is what
Right.
is that future need or the ideal need,
Right.
with other departments having stuff that, they have filled some, otherwise would be their workspace, would be their storage space,
Yeah.
their hallway, I don't know, wherever it's at,
Yeah, we know the sheriff is storing microfilm for
yeah.
the clerk of courts, right?
Yeah.
So we know that there's that, we know we have ledgers
Yeah.
that are stored here.
Yeah, and they even had some of these large ledger books, like the ones we have in the center, the physical books. So I'm assuming they are not, I forget what she said, she commented about those, if they were scanned yet. They weren't from the commissioner's office, they were from another office, but they were those very large, the old books.
Yeah.
And they were on shelves, and she said, obviously that factors into the square footage of space. And they could, okay, this space a whole X number of banker boxes. But now they're utilizing it for books, and that's a totally different utilization of those shelves. But they did have some of those in there as well.
And Shane wasn't here last board session when Mike has asked us to research
Oh, yeah.
some potential,
Cost.
storage units or places in town that may have, space that we could lease.
Yeah, I think his point was if we ended up with a potential buyer, whatever to do with Jeff, if we needed to move along faster than, again, otherwise giving them time to keep working on their plan, is that a viable option to rent space and put it somewhere else? If, again, to not prevent a holdup of a new owner of the building, kind of a thing, and or down the road to investigate cost of a record center. We had shared that we were going to Wood County and. So-
Yeah, and to your point about other department or other electeds wanting to put documents in there, I think if we got to a point where we had an archival center, anything that we need to preserve for the public good, should certainly be in there. But, other items that are routine in nature, we'll have to be our own gatekeeper on what you can store down there. And, obviously things like check registers or something that aren't of value, bank statements or whatever it is, they should be held in the office where possible and destroyed upon
Yeah, and
record
that's,
retention schedules.
yeah, and that certainly is the beauty of having a records retention manager. If you're gonna
Right.
have a center, it can't just be a matter of whoever's, got the key and gets in there and puts their stuff in there. It's gotta be someone for the consistency's sake.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, ask the library, do they want anybody just putting their books back on the shelves? Probably not. And or inventorying what, the new books that come in and logging them, and, you know, you need to have a consistent system, not just
Right.
your system today and mine tomorrow and somebody else's the next day.
We have that now. It's called the TV hospital. Just put your stuff there.
Yeah.
81 Jefferson, that's what happens when you give people
The
keys.
system is, it's
No
in the
system.
building and behind a locked door. That's
Right.
the only part of the system. Yeah, yeah.
So, Stacy, did you have anything to add to the reports?
No, I thought they were very good, and I like that they're reaching out to other counties, and, you know, even, you know, Jean and Teresa both said that, you know, all the counties seem to be interpreting it just a little bit different, doing things just a little bit different. I know just at Wood County, you know, they've emphasized that obviously the laws are old, that, you know, maybe we could reach out to some legislators to revisit it, but I don't know. I mean, I know they were worried about microfilm there for a while because of the film, one of the films were deteriorating, and they were trying to get them transferred at one point.
Yeah, yeah, and the material, they were talking about the
Yeah.
process that Mary Ward was indicating about, basically you could smell it on that microfilm, she said, you know, whether it's of a certain type or the
Oh,
other type,
really?
and yeah. And I don't know which, you know, one from the other, but
Right.
they were definitely aware of that and dealing with that too.
And Judge Sheff has had all his stuff out of there. I think he sent his email at the
Yeah.
beginning when we were working on that, and I think Judge Kelly was pretty much out of there as well at that point, so. And then the only other records that we've been able to identify as those public defender records we need to get rid of.
Okay. Holly, did you have anything else you wanted to discuss in the work session?
No, but I can give a brief update on some Board of Elections things, I guess we can hit. As far as the space, they started just in a kind of a minor step so far. Doesn't look like a lot, but they're doing measuring and I'm sure getting things prepared for the Board of Elections renovation space. Charles Construction started last week on that. We have a construction update meeting tomorrow with them. So we'll keep that on task and moving along. On the service counter with the students, the final design came back from the students and has been handed off for Encompass for them to do the construction documents, because we knew from the beginning, once the students started, that they were not gonna be able to do that part of it and or the build because of the time frame of the end of the school year, et cetera. So construction documents will be prepared, and then we will be looking for our builder to build that. A couple leads out to get some quotes on, because that was to be owner provided, so it's not in the contract for the other renovation portion. And then Board of Elections related, but not to the specific space, is we will have, did they send the link finally, or the document, Board of Elections directors with that link?
Jim Pruth sent it yesterday. I think the link wasn't working.
Still not working.
I think they sent it to me this morning, and she said she was waiting to send it.
And I haven't heard back from the lady that called it.
Work.
CCAO and the county election, whatever their professional organization is, together, of course, we've been working, the County Commissioners Association, been working and lobbying for some support for the new elections equipment that gets us past the Help America, HAVA, the Help America Vote Act,
Yeah.
that our current equipment, I believe ours as well, is that where ours came from?
The HAVA grant.
Yeah, to get to counties to the next level of, voter equipment for the security and all of the things that it brings, and again, the matter of the funding. How is that going to be funded? Is the state going to come up with some of the money? So the efforts have been looking at getting monies into the capital budget to reimburse counties for a portion of. So obviously for them to be able to determine that, they need to know cost. And so they were trying to get costs from the vendors, and they're doing today actually in Columbus in the Capitol, they have set up a open house with the different providers, different vendors there are that do this equipment for the state legislature to see.
Okay.
And then it's going to be on display tomorrow in Franklin County as the central Ohio location for people to see. And then it says 4 other locations, but I'm trying to find out where. Because if not, I asked Lori Ritzler, I said, you know, would you like to go? I think we need to go down, see this equipment and make it the effort to do that. And I said, and if you guys are going, that's fine, but I'm very interested in seeing, especially being on the CCO board and all the talking we've done about this. But I haven't gotten the answer back of where those other locations. I'm sure there's bound to be another one closer to us than going all the way to Franklin County, so I'm hoping I get an answer on that today. But the link in the email, it's a directive from the Secretary of State's office to the Board of Elections Board indicating that they're gonna need to communicate to us by June, talk with us by June 1st about what their needs are, what they see as their needs and potential, and what their need based on that equipment, how much equipment they need and how many machines they need and all of those kinds of things. And then they're gonna be asked to report back by the middle of June, so they're gonna have about a month. So they're having these open house opportunities to see equipment.
Yeah.
Once that happens, the legislature's gonna have a chance to get a ballpark on cost of equipment, and then they're gonna need to know that need by the middle of June in order to say, okay, statewide, it's gonna cost us X amount of dollars, and therefore we're going to fund whatever portion.
Yeah, so right now, we've implemented the electronic poll books,
The poll book part, yeah,
and we're paid, that's behind us.
yeah.
And we had our first election with that. Did you hear any feedback? I liked
Good.
it. I liked
Feedback I
it.
heard was good. I
Yeah.
specifically asked over there in the office, what was the concerns, what was the issues? And they said it was good. Of course, the voter turnout was extremely low.
Yeah, it's an easy
Um,
election to run.
But it was the time to try it,
Yeah.
versus when you've got lots of people, if it makes people a little more nervous in doing it. But they said, yeah, in general, the feedback was good. Some of the locations I heard them indicate they totally kept switching out the person that was handling that of the poll workers there, so that everybody got a little experience with it and that it went well.
And then the thing under consideration now, or the legislation being considered now, is whether or not to mandate the electronic voting equipment. And if they do mandate it, at what level they will fund it.
Right.
And that's what we're monitoring.
Yeah.
So those decisions have not been made.
No, and until they feel like they've got a really good feel on what the cost is going to be, based on what county says their needs are, that's what they're, indicating, that they can't begin to say, we'll fund 80% of it, 100% of it, whatever, until they know what that projected cost is. So based on the quotes from vendors as well as the need from the counties. And a key part for, it doesn't impact us, but that some of the counties have to take into effect is if they put the monies in the capital budget doesn't allow for the reimbursement as it does when it's in the overall state budget. So if there are a few counties, because of failure of equipment or whatever, had to move and make some purchases of equipment, and start moving it, maybe the equipment meets, the whole electronic voting standards they want, but are they gonna be able to get any money back? And, that's, important to be considered, so you don't leave a few counties out there to dry, because if it was us, I certainly want it to be us. So we're not in that situation because we have not done that, but some of them had no choice.
The first ones across the prairie get executed.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a consideration. They're trying to, make sure they're careful in what they're asking for from the state legislature. So lots, hopefully, to actually see progress in the next month, because it's kind of been a long time coming to know this, but the ultimate goal is the next presidential election.
Yeah.
And so there's time, but yeah,
It's got it.
you gotta be moving, because like I said, you wanna be trying it out on a presidential election. So, it's a bit of an update there.
The only other thing that I had for discussion was, I've got a little bit of mixed signals on the new juvenile probate portion area of what we call the annex, the juvenile probate. When we reviewed the plans the other day, it didn't look like Jay was changing much. Judge Meyer was changing much. So, kind of the message I was getting there, that it was mostly a paint and flooring event.
He's doing some construction on the second and third floors, doing some reprogramming, a wall or two here out, and then In the courtrooms, they have four or five pews or areas to sit. They're gonna take that little half wall out, move it back. So there's some construction going on. They're gonna change the benches because both Judge Schaff and Judge Kelbley have said many times that they can't see the witness when they're sitting in the box. So Jay's asked us to, you know, kind of like we did with Common Pleas, do a mock-up. Once Common Pleas gets out of there, it will be easy and a place to do a mock-up. So Jay had asked to do some either lifting up, turning sideways, something for the benches. But on the first floor, they weren't doing anything other than carpet and paint on the first floor. A little more on second and third.
Yeah, I guess my concern is, you know, we have this contract with Encompass, the engineers, from September of 16. And in that contract, we have $3,400 to them for programming and $6,800 for design, which, you know, I guess I get that. $10,000 for reimbursables, which mileage and postage, I don't know how we'd ever get to that, but, and bid advertisement. But then we've got 7% on the cost of construction for construction administration. And on a project that's paint and carpet, I feel that's a little rich. You know, we've got $500,000 set aside for the construction on that project, 7% of that's $35,000. That's a lot to administer a flooring and paint program.
Did our 500,000 include that design cost? I mean, do we calculate that usually? I can't remember now when we did that. We anticipate that, like, their design and their programming money already in
Those
that
didn't.
500,000?
No, those didn't, just because we had to do those first before we determined whether we did the project or
What
not.
we were doing, okay.
What we
Okay.
were doing the project, but,
Yeah.
I mean, I know, but the costs here, programming and design, you know, they've been here numerous times going over with Teresa and Jay and,
Which I get
Yeah,
that, they've got that here, and that's a conversation that we have, you know, to draw it, to program it. But 7% to manage what
That's-
I thought was a paint and flooring program is I think a little rich, and that's the use of taxpayer money.
It's a little more than the paint and flooring, but I mean, it's not like as much programming, or certainly like the new Justice Center. However, the 7% is pretty standard. I mean, to have somebody watching, I mean, that's kind of an industry standard for these firms to be, you know, overseeing and making sure that the designs they put in place is what's being done, that everything's working, the coordination factor of all of those things happening. And we knew as well, I mean, like I said, I remember us discussing it, and as well that we're gonna have the new building in process and going on. I mean, there's just things that you want the professionals in the field to be the ones watching versus us not knowing how that works. But like I said, it was a contract we did in 16, so we do anything
Oh, it's
about it at this
cancelable.
point.
I mean,
Well-
you know, anything's cancelable.
Well, we're in part of it, we're in the process of it, but. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I'm just
underway.
saying that it is cancelable. Yeah, I just think that either I misunderstood the scope of the project, or, you know, I mean, I just can't see us. If there were heavy construction, I would agree with you, that's maybe an industry standard, but, you know, it's kind of been billed to me as a sprucing up and a redecorating, and I don't know that we need a 7% management fee on that.
Well, you know, maybe shame on us as the board in 2016, but like I said, we moved forward making the best decision we could at the time. Maybe we could have, I don't know if it felt the needs to have done time and material, but we made the decision with, yeah, at the time.
But we've
yeah.
accepted, we've taken things out before, right? I mean, portions of the contract is not fall under the construction management.
I would,
Like, haven't we taken flooring out before?
if we bid it separately, like
Yeah.
the prosecutor's office, we did it as an alternate. We did the carpet flooring as an alternate. We don't have the bid specs for this yet, so I guess that is possible. We could bid it as an alternate instead and see what the price comes back at. When we signed the contract, we didn't know what Jay's thoughts were, what kind of remodeling they wanted done, so, yeah.
So maybe the better practice, and I'm just trying to, get the best bang for our buck here. I mean, nothing against Compass, but just the way we structure these things. I mean, would the better process have been to do programming and design as a separate contract?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out if that would be a better process for us.
Yeah.
And then define what we want them to manage on the construction end.
Yeah, we can do it however we want. Unfortunately, I guess we've just always done it that way. Once we get, the design back, the commissioners still have the right to say, no, we're done.
Right, we don't know what
Change
the budget's gonna be, right?
Right,
Yeah.
so,
Even though we put 500 in, we have no idea if that's plus or minus 250.
Where it's gonna hit, right.
Yeah,
Right.
so it may be a redesign after that, once we get.
yeah, kind of like we did Board of Elections.
Yeah.
It just came back as a shock, so we reevaluated it.
Right, and yeah, and you have to do that, that's the.
All right, well, I wanted to make sure that I was on the record talking about that, and we may want to visit that as we make this final decision on who appropriate.
Do you need, I can get a more detailed list of I gave the flooring plan so you could see where the walls were being taken out and the half walls. I can get a more specific list, or if you need.
Well, I think until we get.
When are we supposed to let? When does?
We don't have the documents, we just told them 2 weeks ago
To
to
move
move
ahead.
forward with getting prices,
Okay,
so.
so they're just getting the estimates now and.
Right.
Something to consider as we.
As we
bid.
go.
All right. Anything else?
I do not have anything else for work session though.
Everybody gets a bathroom break.